Hey, Bo here. Valentine's Day is coming very soon, so I went to Walmart and got these little fat quarters that will make beautiful little quilted stuffed hearts. So let's see what we can make and the different ways that we can decorate them. Okay, so here's the variety of fat quarters that I got for less than $7 at Walmart. And I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variations of material that are all going to be beautiful for Valentine's Day. This is the pattern that I got offline. Before we go on, what I want to do is save the ribbon that came around this little fat quarter pack, because these little hearts are going to have little loops on top, and this gives me some right now. And even though I do have some, I save things like this, and I use them. I just run it under there, a quick continuous flow under a hot iron, and then you end up getting a nice ribbon. Okay, as I begin to do these hearts, I think what I'm going to do is the back side will be solid. And so I'm going to make about a 5 by 5 inch square for the back. And then in order to get like a quilted look across the front of the heart, I'm going to cut some strips that are about 2.5 inches, I think. Okay, so this is 2 backs for the hearts, and now we'll do some little strips that will create the front. But these So these 3 will be a heart, and these 3 will create another heart. I've got this all ironed out, and I will say that as I was ironing, you know, I would kind of poke this in and try to get it, well, actually I'd use this, poke it in and try to get this rounded, this top rounded. So you kind of have to keep working at it, but at least it's now more of a heart shape. So we're going to stuff it, and you hopefully likely have some cotton balls. And if you just kind of I bet we won't need more than 5. I like using batting, which is what I have behind me, but I'm going to use what most people have. Okay, all done with our heart. This is very basic, but to finish this particular one off, I have some peppermint essential oil that I just keep in this little dropper, and you can, you know, just drop it on the material. The other thing you can do, sometimes I'll just put it on my hands and rub it on gently. It's kind of a little bit more gentle, even, and just so that it's just kind of everywhere. You don't want too much because you don't want it to discolor. Oh gosh, but it smells delicious. And I'm going to be giving these as gifts for Valentine's Day, and they're all going to smell like peppermint. The other thing you can do if you don't want peppermint on your hands is you could put it on a cotton ball and just lightly dab, not remember, as we get these pinned together, I'm gonna remember that these 2 pins are where I'm gonna leave open in order to stuff. Okay, I've got my polyfill, and again, you can use cotton balls if you want. With a bigger heart, I think I want to use the polyfill. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is use this ribbon. I have buttons and stars, and the buttons are kind of getting lost in all this design. So I think what I'm going to do is just put a little ribbon right here. Here's how I made the bow. What I did in order to make, there's probably different ways of making it, was basically create 2 bows and then just tie the bows. So once I put one part of the bow over, then just pull on the bows. Here, let's try it again. It took me a couple times, but I'm really happy with the bow, the way so these 2 ears flip over and then pull it through. And then I think my problem was I was hanging onto this tail. And then you've got these 2 darling little bows. And I like how the bows lay kind of flat. They're not floppy. I don't have to work much with them. And then just keep kind of pulling it till pull this to shorten it, pull this to shorten the other one. And they're darling. Okay, I decided to put a button on this, and what I'm going to do is just cut this to kind of fit the heart. I usually cut them like that. And there we've got a cute little heart. And like the others, we'll scent it with peppermint, and it'll be a lovely Valentine. Okay, if you remember, I originally started cutting smaller hearts, and I don't really want to make another one. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to put it on top of this, and then this will be the back of this, and then we'll use the pinking shears around it. But what I want to do is when I get this on here, I want to stitch it around here, maybe with a zigzag. I'm using white thread. Before I do that though, it's easier. This is, I always called it stitch witchery, but it's like a fusible, thin little web. It's great for hems if you don't have time to pull out needle and thread to fix a hem. To just quick stick something on. That's what this is good for. And so that's what I'm gonna do so that it will, I love how it just tears too. Just kind of tear it like that and put it on here, run a quick iron over it. And I don't need it everywhere, just enough to keep it in place. And when I do, it will stick, and it's stuck on. Okay, so here's the hearts I've cut so far. This was the original one that I started with, and I enlarged it a little bit more to this. So I used, this was the first pattern, and that made this. And it's fine if you want smaller, but I wanted a little bigger. So I just traced around it a little bit more and got these sizes. And so this pattern I've been cutting the fronts and the backs out of. And I made these and I like these, but with these are all stuffed with batting. And I also have flat batting, which is like this. And so I used, for 3 of these, I'll be sending to people that are not close to me, and they fit in an envelope and they mail nice and they're nice surprises. So these are filled with batting, and they'll be the same thing. They just won't be puffy. They won't be puffy. They'll be more like a quilt. So that's what these 3 are, the batting ones, and then these are all going to be stuffed. One thing for sure is keeping them separate. You can stitch the fronts and decorate them before you put them together. With these, I put them together and then put the bow on. Much harder. Don't do that. And then all this is water soluble. Most of it will be trimmed off with the pinking shears, but these blue lines come out with water because it's the kind of sewing ink that dissolves in water. And I just added stitches, and a lot of these, you could just use remnants. You know, if you cut a heart and you have a little piece, using the stitch witchery, I just sit it on there, use the iron, and it stays in place so that when I take it to the machine, I can do the stitching a lot easier. Just, it goes really fast. Okay, so on some of these, I'm adding a little texture, and this is a little bit of lace. And before I sew it on, I put it on with the stitch witchery again. And I want to do the same with this one, and I'm going to show you kind of how to do it. I have this lace, it's very light, and it just adds a little bit of texture. And I want to add the stitch witchery under the lace, but it's going to come through and stick to my iron. So what we want to do, because I just need a little bit of stick, is to put the stitch witchery here, put the lace here, let me cut it off, and then we're just going to flip it over, and it'll stick enough for me to get it sewn. And you don't want to get the iron on the lace, just on the, through the fabric, through the little stitch witchery, and then it'll stick until we can get it sewn on just a little bit better. So there we go. Okay, I'm gonna try another thing with the stitch witchery, which is right here. Instead of trying to keep track of all these little loops, I'm gonna try to put some of the stitch witchery right here and see if it will hold the loop. And what it will do is it will hold the loop, theoretically. It won't be sewn together, but it'll hold the loop and the top, and then I can sew it together. And let's see what it does. This is really the side that you want to get the heat through, and then I won't have to pin it. And looks like it shifted just a little, but yeah, I think that'll be fine. So what I'll do is just kind of, I'll probably use a little bit less so it's not so stuck up here. Then I can, because I have to separate this to get a little stuffing up here. But I think it works for me to pin it together, sew it partially, and stuff it. Okay, now we're all done, and we're gonna run over some things that I did that I wouldn't advise. So here's some do's and don'ts. The do is the fat squares that you can buy in a bundle. You can get them at Hobby Lobby. I got all of these at Walmart. The advantage is these fat quarter bundles, they all match. They're different patterns that match. And kind of the rule of thumb is you can match all kinds of patterns. You just want the color theme. And the only thing I kind of would avoid is not too much of this. But with the fat quarter, you just mix it with the others, it automatically matches. If you were to go through the fabric part of the store and try to get them to things that match, it's more effort on you unless you know specifically what you want. The fat quarters by far was a better price and a time saver and kept me in the style. I just wanted Valentine, so I got this red theme. The next thing is the sizes. I had got this off the internet, and this is the first one I made, and it's just smaller than I wanted to send, but this is a decent size. So I made a little one, and I also learned that I prefer the stitching and the pinking shears on the, I like the little border a little better. It is a good size if you want to put it on a bag, in addition to a bag. And if you were to change colors, you could make it Christmassy, Easter, birthday, some other theme. This could say happy birthday, and it'd be a great, you can make these up ahead of time and then have them ready for gift bags. But for me, for this, I wanted something a little bigger. So what I did was just traced something bigger. Knowing I'd sew along here, I just traced something bigger and created this pattern, which gave me this size heart, which I really like. It's just better for what I wanted. I wanted something a little bigger for Valentine's Day. So that's the 2 size thing. Then there's the stitch witchery. I started out sewing some of these little panels together for the front, like quilting. It was way more labor intensive. So I thought, well, why not just overlap these and do the stitch witchery and put it together that way? Much easier. You could just piece these together, iron, and then they stick. And then once I kind of created, like I would take this and just kind of patch material together, use the stitch witchery to glue them, and then cut out the heart. And then you end up with this pattern much more easily. And I just zigzag along the seams so randomly. You can do anything you want to do, and that's the neat thing. You don't go searching for what you want, you create what you want. I used a white thread. That's what's in my machine. It just went good. I didn't bother. I think red would have been a distraction. White thread was great. And then before you put them together, cut out all the backs, which I created this little template because this is the front and the back. So the back I would cut as a whole piece, and I would just cut out all the backs. And I think all my backs are, well, they do vary a little. You can do whatever you want to do. But I'd cut out all the backs, set them aside, and then create the fronts. And that's where you'll piece together something about this size, put your heart on, cut it out, and then sew them together. So definitely do the fronts first before you assemble. And then I would advise the assembly line method, which is just that. Cut out all the backs, create all the fronts, embellish them, do what you want, and then put them together and sew them together. The other thing that was so helpful that I thought of while I was doing this was to use the stitch witchery. And before these are sewn together, but about the time you're about to put it together, to wrap these ends that are in here in stitch witchery, put it in here, and not kind of flip it over, iron it, and then this is, you have to pin it, and then it's just there in place. When you're ready to sew, it's already in place. I used whatever I had around here, which was miscellaneous ribbon, and I used all of this up. I thought it went really well. And then this is the twill, and I just stamped hugs on everything. And I thought I liked the hugs so much, I just kind of did it everywhere. Oh, the other thing I have is I bought this lace on Amazon, and when I got it, I thought, what in the world am I going to do with this? It is so thin. I don't know what I'm going to put it. I have used this over and over on these little hearts. And you just put just a strip of lace somewhere across, and this goes along the bottom and adds texture, because a lot of these, they just looked really plain. Like this would be really plain without the bow, but the bow, this is when I did the quilting type thing. I sewed this, so this is one of the first ones. Well, it's very time consuming, and but then I got to thinking outside the box and adding that and adding the lace. And what I would do is just put it on there with a little bit of stitch witchery behind it, and then trim it off, and it would stay there until I sewed that on. Like this really sews the lace on. The lace is just a little loose and just kind of magically there. Let's see. And then the last thing, if you have it, is the peppermint. And just dot these with, right before, these are not dotted yet, but right before I give them, I will dot them with some peppermint oil, and then they'll get an extra touch. The other thing is this washable marker I use to trace around all of these. And if you don't cut it off, you just dab it with water and it disappears. That's a lifesaver too. The batting, I had the bulk batting that was like fluffy, which I stuffed these with, and then these that I'm going to mail, which are flat. They have the flat batting, the low profile batting, and these will easily go into a card, smell like peppermint when they open the mail, and it'll be great. Oh, one last thing. If you don't have pinking shears, what I did with these coasters, didn't ask for pinking shears, but it's how you get the little frilly ends. And you can see I just sewed around here and then snip, 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 and then ran them through the washer and dryer, and then they kind of fuzzed up. That's another option. I think this would be really cute if you don't have pinking shears. And then you don't need pinking shears at all if you decide to turn the edges in like this. So there you have it, all of these beautiful hearts, and I'm done early. It's still January. I didn't want to wait till February, and I'm really pleased with them. And I think they're going to make great gifts, and I hope you decide to make them too. So subscribe if you want to see more crafts, and pop me a note. I'd love to hear from you.